Story 1. My mother is an identical twin. My childhood cat Linus was a total scaredy cat, abused at an early age and terrified of new people, but an absolute sweetheart with us. When my aunt visited for the first time, Linus walked up to her and snuggled against her leg. She scratched him, and everything went well until he saw my mother. He made quick back-and-forth head turns, then ran up the stairs and hid for hours. Poor thing. Story 2. Rusty was a good boy and ecstatic that there were two of us. There was more to play with. He learned to tell us apart, and I felt like an indulgent uncle. It is even more fun now that my brother and I both have children, and they cannot tell us apart until they are almost 2. Story 3. My dad and his brother looked identical and had the same voice. My dad rescued a nest of baby birds whose mother never returned, and he would feed them. A veterinarian friend taught him how and what to feed them. One day his brother came over, and my dad told him to go outside and say, "Where are my babies?" The birds stayed silent. Not a peep. His brother tried again to no avail. When my dad said it, the babies instantly popped up, chirping. They recognized his voice. They could not see him, yet somehow they just knew. It was uncanny. Edit. My uncle passed away a year ago. That is why I used "we're identical." Story 4. I am an identical twin. It is strange because my dog loves me but hates my sister. When she comes around, he growls at her and barely lets her touch him. I have no idea why. He is not like this with the rest of my family or friends. Maybe he thinks she is an imposter. We have no idea. Story 5. My dad and my uncle were identical twins. Their voices sounded so similar that even my mom would get confused before the invention of caller identification. My dad passed away last year. When my uncle came over, the family beagle did not notice at first, but when my uncle spoke, the dog perked up. Then the dog would sniff my uncle and become sad again. Story 6. My sister's dog was confused for a second because we sound alike. When he realized I wasn't my sister, he still adored me. Sometimes, when I'm visiting and he gets in trouble with her, he comes to find me and climbs into my lap. He only weighs 100 pounds. Story 7. We live together, but my cat doesn't particularly like him. I can manhandle that fluffy fur ball and rub his stomach all I want. My twin, however, will bite the other person if they touch the cat the wrong way. Story 8. I am an identical twin. My dogs had no trouble distinguishing between my sister and me. They could tell by smell. Story 9. My partner is an identical twin. Our dog hates his twin and will not let him into the house, while our cat loves him. I have apparently confused some people. My partner has a twin brother. Neither brother uses Reddit, so I answered from my perspective. I am not a twin and I am not dating any of my relatives. Story 10. We never had pets when we were growing up, so my twin was nervous. My wife's 9-pound Pomeranian smelled his fear and preyed on him. Story 11. A long time ago, my grandfather had a dog that went with him to work in the fields on his farm. When my grandfather passed away, the dog stayed with my father and his mother. One day, my grandfather's brother came up the driveway to visit, walking and looking like my grandfather. The dog went crazy in the house, barking and running from window to window. They finally let her out as he was walking up the steps to the porch. She ran up to him excitedly until she realized it was not her master. It was as if someone had kicked her. Her tail went between her legs and she slowly walked over to her bed and lay down in sadness. Story 12. This is the first oddly specific AskReddit post I am qualified to answer. My dog lost his mind when my twin came to visit. He dashed back and forth between us, thrilled to see both of us. Then again, he is a golden retriever, so he does that with everyone. Story 13. I have an identical twin. My sister decided to surprise me by coming to visit from out of state. She had a key. While I was in the shower, my dog growled and barked at her and would not let her in. He did not care that she looked and sounded like me. She was not coming in unless I let her. I was laughing out loud. I get it. It was the smell. Story 14. My dad's brother looks almost exactly like him. So similar that even the cousins sometimes confuse them when we're all together. My uncle once came to visit while my dad was still outside helping with the bags. My golden doodle bounded up to him because my dad is her favorite person and barked a greeting. They have completely different voices, octaves apart. My dog panicked. She froze, her hair stood up, she crouched low, and she looked at me as if something was wrong with Dad. Then my dad walked in. My dog realized he was still there and that this visitor was a fun new person like him. She happily went to investigate and say hello. My golden doodle now loves my uncle, but that first moment really freaked her out. Story 15. My grandfather had a younger brother whose voice sounded indistinguishable from his own to all of us. They were not twin-like in appearance, nor in scent, one assumes. One day our big, studly German shepherd, master of his domain, caught Uncle Reggie on the front porch and started going after him. Uncle Reggie said, "Oh, Scout, now stop that." Scout did the full cartoon stop. He tilted his head to one side and gave that whimper that sounds like a question mark. The dog was not fooled by his appearance, but the identical voice completely confused Scout. Story 16. My rabbit will come to my twin sister if she calls him from the other room because we have the same voice. But once he arrives and sees that it is her and not me, he stops short because he was expecting me to pet him. He will eventually let her pet him. It is the betrayal when she imitates my voice and intonation that makes him a little huffy at first. Story 17. My cat couldn't give a fuck. Her new puppy thought I was my twin until she walked into the room, then decided to bark and growl at me. He has only met me a few times and still confuses me with my twin. On a separate note, after college my twin's older dog lived with my parents at the same time I did. I can't remember why they had him then. I call him my Neff dog because I love him so much, and we even FaceTime. He goes absolutely apeshit when I visit, and it's the best welcome back ever. Story 18. I think my dog is too dumb to realize we are twins. She comes when anyone calls her name because she thinks there is food involved. Story 19. Not pet related. My grandma is an identical twin, and the first time I met her sister my 3-year-old brain did not think it was strange, so I called her more Nana. My family thought it was so funny that we still call her more Nana. Story 20. Not the same situation, but I think it is mostly about smell and possibly mannerisms. My twin sister and I share a pet cat, and despite being blind, he prefers my company. He does not know we look alike. He only knows what I smell like and how I behave. If he could see and had only known one of us, I think he would still avoid the other twin if he had never met them, even if he already liked someone similar. Story 21. Mythbusters has a segment in which the hosts wear masks of each other's faces, and it greatly confuses the dog. Story 22. My dog loves my identical twin sister. As soon as my sister speaks, the dog is all over her. I think it's because we sound alike, but the dog knows we are not the same. Story 23. Not a twin. The first dog my husband and I owned belonged to my husband. He worshipped the ground my husband walked on. One day, while my husband was walking him, the dog saw someone who looked just like me from behind. Even my husband was confused. The dog ran up to her, happy as could be. Then she turned around. He growled at her and barked while backing away. He was usually very mellow. When they returned to our apartment, he sniffed me for a moment and snuggled with me for the rest of the night. I guess he could not handle the betrayal. Story 24. My Yorkshire Terrier had no idea I had a twin until my wife surprised me by buying a plane ticket for my twin to visit for our birthday. When he walked in, she ran to him, thinking it was me. The kitchen was next to the front door and I was standing in it. When she reached the door, she stopped, saw both of us, and became even more excited, running back and forth between us. One of the cutest things I have ever seen. Story 25. Not a twin, but once while walking I caught up to a man and his dog. When we were within sight, the dog kept turning and staring every 5 to 10 seconds. The owner said I looked an awful lot like a close friend of his. After a sniff check, the dog quickly lost interest. Story 26. My dog could not tell Asians apart, I guess, and followed the wrong Asian woman at the dog park. Story 27. My sisters are identical twins. The only way to tell them apart is which side their hair part's on and the glasses they wear. Our family cat absolutely adores the younger twin and despises the other. Story 28. I have an identical twin, and our beagle always follows him around. I could be relaxing on the couch with the beagle, and then suddenly it hops up because my twin just walked in the door. The beagle seems to have a favorite, which makes sense because the dog has been with my twin since it was a puppy. Story 29. Our pets seem to know who is who. Our kids can't tell the difference and become upset when we are together. Dogs don't seem to care. Story 30. My Rottweiler likes my twin, but she does not get the trippy taps, wags, and smiles that I get. She knows the difference. Story 31. My dad has an identical twin, and while my cats did not care as long as belly rubs were involved, my then 2-year-old twins were very confused. My dad and his twin were always assumed to be identical, but now that I think about it, the only surefire way to know identical versus fraternal, especially in pregnancies before the use of ultrasound, is with a deoxyribonucleic acid test. They look so much alike that it is hard to tell them apart sometimes. My grandmother might have gotten their zygosity incorrect, and they were more likely fraternal. Story 32. This question reminds me of a GIF where the owner dresses up as his dog's favorite toy, and the dog becomes overjoyed when he sees him. I wonder what was going through the dog's mind at the time. Story 33. I am an identical twin. When my brother had a Shetland sheepdog, the dog could definitely tell us apart. It had lived with us since it was a puppy, so that might have been a major factor. Seeing so many responses from twins here makes me want to ask other twins about their experiences. Did you usually need to poop at the same time? That was probably because of similar metabolism and lifestyle, for example, when and what we ate. I know there have been twin studies for years. We have received a few surveys from research institutes, but I feel Reddit is an untapped source for this kind of research. Story 34. I am an identical twin. Growing up, the family cat always preferred my sister. He would sleep in her bed every night but attack me for no reason. I hated that cat. Story 35. My dog is a bloodhound, so we might as well be total strangers. He knew she wasn't me. When my son first met my twin, he was only 4 months old. He could not stop staring at her and had a half grin, as if he thought we were all playing with him. My brother captured some really cute pictures of the moment and of my son's confused face. Story 36. My cat stared at the two of us when my brother came over. We are identical twins and look very much alike. She would look at me, then at my brother, then back at me. My brother put his hand out to signal Shadow to come closer. Her eyes fixed on him and, like a bullet, she ran toward him. Her hind legs pushed off the bed to increase her speed, and she latched onto his face. Her claws dug in and wrapped around his head while her teeth bit his forehead. My brother did not know what to do and was scared, so he peeled the cat off, claws dragging on his skin, and flung her across the room. She got back up, stared at him, hissed, and ran out. I was shocked and my brother was furious. We bandaged all 5 puncture wounds and he left. 2 days later, I held her while he came over and we slowly reintroduced them. After that, there were no more attacks, but she could tell who was who. Story 37. Not twins, but when we were teens, my brother and I looked so much alike that we could fool people. I made friends with a neighborhood stray cat. It took nearly an hour of coaxing and purring before he finally came to me. I spent the next hour sitting still because he loved all the petting I was giving him. I learned that cats drool when they are very happy. After that, he would follow me around whenever he saw me, circling me like a personal guard cat and coming for affection whenever I stopped. A few months later, my brother saw me with the cat and asked why I was hanging out with his cat. We were both confused, and Fred, the name I had given the cat, was confused too, trying to figure out why there were 2 of us. It turned out that after I befriended Fred, he had gone up to my brother just as he had to me, without realizing we were different people. My brother just thought the cat was special. Story 38. I am an identical twin. My twin's dog absolutely loves me as much as he loves her. It is so pure and sweet. 10 out of 10 I would recommend. Story 39. My niece played dead the first time she met me. My mom picked me up at the airport, then picked up my niece, who was asleep, and took her home. She went out to buy groceries. While she was out, my niece started making noise in her crib, so I went in to take a look. She looked at me in the dark room and began to smile. I said hello. She went from happy to terrified and then just dropped. I wasn't sure what to do, so I turned around and left the room. As I exited, I glanced back. She had raised her head and immediately dropped it when she saw me looking at her. I sent my wife in to check on her, and my niece clung to her, someone she had never seen before, until my mom returned and took care of her. I think my niece was only 2 at the time. From her perspective, she fell asleep at home with her mom, woke up in a different but familiar place, and someone who looked like her dad came in but did not sound like him. I would have been freaked out too. Story 40. One of my sister's cats is afraid of everyone except her and her husband, so he will hide when they have guests. The last time I visited, he actually came out while I was there, perhaps because we are both very small. While my sister and I stood across from each other, the cat kept looking back and forth between us as if he could not understand why there were 2 of us. It was very cute. Story 41. My identical twin sister has been stationed in Afghanistan since September 2019, and I am caring for her 5-year-old female black Labrador. I am pretty sure the dog has no idea her owner is gone. She does not seem sad or act any differently around me. We will probably try to surprise the dog when my sister returns, but I am sure it will be anticlimactic. Story 42. My twin brother's pet pig attempts to take out its rage on me. I think the pig cannot express this rage toward my brother, and because I am my brother's identical twin, the pig sees me as a suitable substitute. I don't like that pig much. Story 43. My fiancé has an identical twin. We rescue all sorts of animals. His brother's animal care is poor, to say the least. People often have trouble telling them apart, but the animals all know. Our roosters attack his brother, our dogs bite him, and a deer once ran through a fence to get away. They know. Story 44. I'm an identical twin. I have a dog and so does he. Our dogs have never confused us. Our nieces and nephews, however, have confused us on several occasions. A nephew once thought we were the same person. Story 45. I'll start by saying that my twin and I are as identical as possible in appearance. I was stationed in a different state. For the holidays, my wife and I drove back to my parents' house with our dog. I went to the store quickly and got home just after my twin had come over to visit. My dog ran up to him, jumped, and was excited. When I came through the door, he was holding the dog. The dog turned, looked at me, then looked back at my twin with the most concerned expression I have ever seen on her. I still have the picture. Story 46. I'm not a twin, but my dad is. We had a dog growing up who hated other people. He was a great family dog and got used to the people he saw regularly, like our friends, but he would otherwise hide behind my mom and bark at everyone else. My dad's twin, my uncle, came over for the first time after we got the dog, and we warned him about it. We told him to just ignore the dog and maybe slip him some table scraps at dinner. That was the best we could hope for. Side note. My uncle drenches himself in cologne. He smells completely different from my dad. Anyway, our dog loved him. He wagged his tail and greeted him like an old friend. The only explanation we can think of is that my uncle's strong cologne might have blocked the dog's sense of smell, forcing him to rely on sight. Or maybe my uncle was just a really cool guy. We had no idea, but my uncle was consistently the only person our dog never hated. Story 47. I'm an identical twin. I think I've had different experiences than most of the comments. My brother and I do not live close to each other, but over the years we've each gotten dogs and introduced them to one another. I would not say the dogs were confused. They immediately seemed familiar and comfortable with either of us. Story 48. They were not identical twins, but a college friend had a brother who looked nearly identical to him. My cat was skittish around strangers but very comfortable with my friend. The cat allowed my friend to pet and pick him up. Once, the brother came to my house with my friend. The cat was upstairs and heard us come in. We were seated in the living room when the cat came downstairs. He walked past the brother, then me, then my friend. He stopped, did a literal double take, looked between the two men, appeared panicked and ran back upstairs. Story 49. I did not know I needed to know this, but I need this information now. Story 50. The family cat most certainly can tell the difference between my sister and me. Furthermore, the cat has specific rituals and mannerisms each family member is responsible for and will not do those things to or with anyone else. If I attempt any of my sister's responsibilities, or she attempts one of mine, the cat will have none of it and sometimes physically moves the offender out of the way so the rightful twin can serve the cat goddess. Story 51. We had 3 dogs, 2 black and 1 white. We also had a cat who thought he was one of the dogs. One day we were helping a friend by watching her dog for the night, another black dog. After all 4 dogs had been playing in the yard for an hour or so, they came running in past the cat lying on the sofa table. 2 black, 1 white, a visiting black, and finally the oldest of our own who could no longer run as fast. He freaked out over the last one, whom he had known for 7 years. He had simply counted the dogs running past him without checking who they were, and the numbers were not right. Story 52. My twin lives on the other side of the country, so I do not get to see him or his dog often. When I recently visited, the dog stared at me intently whenever my twin was not around. He made almost no noise. You could barely hear his chesty breathing, which is normal because he is asthmatic. It was unnerving. Story 53. I have a gray African parrot that always greets me by saying my name before proceeding to talk gibberish. He always did that when he wanted his treats. I have a big apartment in Manhattan, so the next time my parents, a pair of male twins, and a pair of female twins had dinner together, it was at my apartment. When my twin walked in, my parrot squawked his typical greeting from his cage. When I went to introduce my pet to my shocked twin, my parrot began jumping up and down in his cage, screamed my name several times, looked at me, then screamed my name and asked who the newcomer was. He then looked at my twin and sang a lullaby. He did that for a while until my parents and the female twins wanted to see what he would do next. The parrot became completely silent. I introduced him to my family and, since he knows how family works and what a last name is, he looked at each of us and screamed our last name, laughing as he moved to the next person. When one of my sisters pulled out her phone, he shouted, "I am on television. I want my cereal. Pete wants cereal. He does not eat cereal. This was yesterday. He has never done this before. Today everything is normal." He did not ask questions. I have not taught him what a twin is yet. I am a little afraid of how he will react. Story 54. My dog was super excited to meet my identical twin sister. I was away from home and my mother was taking care of him until my sister could come get him. It had been months since I had seen him, and when he saw her he jumped, moaned, and cried, wagging furiously. After a while he seemed to understand, put his head down and paused for a bit, then jumped on her, wagging excitedly. I like to think he realized it was not me but that she was something I sent to ease the pain of separation. Story 55. My mom is a twin. My aunt got a dog at some point. He had been abused before they got him and was terrified of grown men except for my uncle. The first time we visited, my goodness, that dog was a wreck. He was confused by there being 2 of them and was absolutely terrified of my dad. He ran around yelping with no idea what to do. Everything was fine after a day or so. Now he is a very old dog and partially blind, but still cute as heck. Story 56. Nothing to do with twins, but our dog thinks my wife and I sound similar enough that she sometimes cannot tell which of us called her and will look at the other one. Ironically, the dog also seems to identify when people are speaking Spanish and wags her tail. I believe she assumes anyone speaking Spanish is part of my wife's family, because they are the only Spanish speakers she knows. Story 57. I'm not a twin, but my grandmother had an identical twin. Her sister died first and had the meanest cat I have ever met. I love cats, and that cat always terrified me. Her sister's children had no idea what to do with the cat, because it hated and would bite everyone. My grandmother and her sister were not very close as adults, but my grandmother reluctantly agreed to try taking the cat. The cat immediately loved her. My grandmother was not a cat person but fell in love with little Jojo. The cat never liked anyone else, but they spent 10 more years together before my grandmother passed. The cat's health had been slowly declining, but it seemed as if she was holding on just for my grandmother. The day my grandmother died, the cat suddenly teetered on the edge of death. She had to be almost 20 at that point. They were both cremated together. Story 58. Not a twin but a carbon copy of my mom in looks and voice. We had a dog who could not tell us apart and would often go to the wrong one when one of us called him. This happened even when I lived with them. One of my mom's cats becomes very upset when I visit. I assume it is an uncanny valley reaction. Story 59. Somewhere in the dog world, a dog is wondering the same thing. How can a human recognize him and not his brother when they look exactly the same? Story 60. My husband has an identical twin who lives some distance away, so we do not see him very often. Our dog loves to lick my husband on his arms, shins, and neck when he is lying on the floor, but he never licks me or anyone else like that until my brother-in-law visited. The dog barked at him briefly, as he does at any visitor, but once he sat down the dog immediately started licking him just like he does with my husband. They must taste the same. Story 61. My mum was an identical twin. My aunt lived in a different town. When my mum died, it was horrific for everyone. My aunt came to stay. Friends came over to offer condolences, not knowing she had an identical sister. If you can see where this is going, many got the fright of their lives seeing my aunt there. There was a lot of confusion, disbelief, and shock, and another wave of grief on realizing. Funny looking back now, but it was kind of cruel at the time. Story 62. My identical twin lives in Australia and has a Jack Russell Terrier. When I saw the dog for the first time, he was very happy to see me. I realized he is happy to see anyone. Story 63. I was not a dog, but I could not tell my grandmother and her twin apart until my teenage years. It was embarrassing, but they enjoyed it and always dressed alike to confuse people. That brings us to the story of my grandmother's second husband and how she divorced him after he was caught groping her twin numerous times while insisting he could not tell them apart. I feel your pain. Story 64. I asked my brother to look after my dog while I was on a business trip. When I went to pick him up, the dog looked at me but did not run to me like he usually does when I leave him with friends. After I took him home from my brother's house, he acted strangely around me for the next 2 weeks. In summary, my dog seemed to think my brother was me and was confused to see two similar people. Thanks for the 60 upvotes. Story 65. My identical twin brother's dog hates me. I am a dog person. My wife is a veterinary technician, so we are constantly rescuing animals that were either abused or whose owners did not want to pay for treatment and would rather have them put down than pay to treat a broken leg. It is a generalization, but many abused dogs and dogs in general dislike men. I have always been able to get them to come around after a few days once they figure out I am the giver of treats, tummy rubs, and couch snuggles. To this day, there is only one dog I cannot win over: my twin brothers. I have tried bribing her and we have tried tricks, such as me lying on the couch wearing my brother's hoodie and his cologne, but she can still tell, wait a minute, that's not my dad. I stopped trying for the most part because I think the dog is terrified, like in the movie Coraline where the puppet mother looks just like her real mother, but she can tell something is not quite right. Story 66. I do not want to compare my son to a pet, but he definitely flipped when he saw my identical twin sister. He looked back and forth a few times, and when he realized that it was her holding him and not me, he started crying. That only lasted a minute. After that, he was immediately much more comfortable with her, quicker than I have ever seen him acclimate to anyone else. It was cool. Story 67. My identical twin sister has a Rottweiler. He is the sweetest and loves me just as much. Story 68. Lifelong twin here. I am a 33-year-old female. We have lived apart since we were about 18. She has a pug and I have a cool cat. The pug really thinks I am her person and whines like crazy. My cat knows better. Story 69. Not me, but my dad and uncle are identical twins. When I visited my grandparents, we brought my dad's dog. My dad left to check something with my grandpa. The dog wanted to go with him and waited for his return. Then my uncle arrived. The dog immediately thought he was my dad and tried to get his attention. The poor dog was confused about why he was getting attention until my dad eventually returned. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.